I would now like to call upon our guest of honor, Mr. Neil Pollock, Head, Managed Services, Bharti Airtel, to kindly come up on the stage. Mr. Neil Pollock is currently the CEO of Airtel's Data Center Managed Services business. Sir joined Airtel in November 2009 as Head of Service Operations in the Enterprise Services Business Unit and worked with business leaders across Airtel to streamline customer service operations for Airtel's enterprise and government customers before moving on to his current role in 2011. Sir has over 25 years of experience across sales, strategy development, and operations. He brings a balance of vision, capability development, and successful execution in organizations focused on growth, profitability, and cost transformation. Prior to joining Airtel, Sir held various senior positions at Australia's publicly listed challenger telco, Singtel Optus. His telco experience spans over 12 years and includes frontline managed services delivery and service management, product development, business transformation, and strategy leadership. We welcome you, sir, to SITM. May I request, sir, to kindly preside over the session and share his views on the topic OSS BSS as a managed service. Sir.
Good morning, and thank you very, very much for inviting me to be here today and to take you through what I think is probably going to do for our industry and my industry what SMS did to the voice phone and what messaging is doing to SMS. This brings back memories. I was just talking to someone outside and listening to that, I didn't realise I'd actually been in this game for 25 years. I remember what I was doing 25 years ago, although I'm struggling to remember what I was doing 25 minutes ago. So you guys are going to be the guys that will take my industry and your industry forward. So I'm excited about being able to talk to you a little bit about cloud. I'm going to break the presentation into 4 different segments. However, I realise that I only have 30 minutes and I will only take 30 minutes. And I will leave time at the end, 10 minutes at the end. I'll talk for 20 minutes and then hand over the floor to you for 10 minutes. If someone down the front here can wave at me when we get to the 15-minute mark, that would be fantastic. Thank you. Okay, and make sure I see it. Right? That's why I asked you to do it rather than someone up there. Okay. Look, there's a lot of hype about cloud. And so the first part of this particular presentation is going to be basically setting the ground rules for what I'm talking about when I talk about cloud. I'll then talk a little bit about what it means for you in this organisation, in this institute, what it means for you in the future. I'll then have a little bit of a look at OSS and BSS and what it does for cloud service providers and what it means. Now, I'm certainly not going to sit here and take you through the ETOM or the ITIL model for OSS and BSS. That's not what I'm here to do. And in fact, I would be technically challenged to do that because you are the guys with the ETOM certification, not me. So you can tell me about it rather than me telling you. But then I'll open up the floor and you can ask me any questions that you want. They're the 4 parts. Okay. This is not the cloud. And I'm okay with this image because I'm from that side of the fence, right? But this is what different organisations or different people over the last couple of years have said about cloud. And when people talk about cloud, they talk about all kinds of things. You'll hear it referred to as a cloud. You'll hear it referred to as the cloud, as though there's only one of them. You'll hear them talk about IaaS, SaaS, and PaaS. And because I'm now in India, I need to be careful saying those 3 words together, I discovered. But you'll hear about infrastructure as a service, software as a service, platform as a service, DR as a service, anything as a service. Is that the cloud? Is that what the cloud means? This is how Wikipedia and Gartner talk about the cloud. But regardless of that, what everyone agrees on is that there are a number of key characteristics of the cloud. And therefore, if the technology that we're talking about provides or meets these characteristics, then it is safe to assume that we are in the cloud. What are some of the key ones? It's on demand, and I'll talk a little bit more about this as we go through. It's automated. It's infinitely scalable. And for all of us in the technology industry, it doesn't matter whether you're with T-Systems or NSN or Airtel or wherever, Vodafone, talking about infinitely scalable technology or infinitely scalable systems is a dangerous thing. So we need to be careful about what that means. The best thing about it, though, is that it doesn't matter where it is. So I look after about, or my business looks after about 160,000 square feet and 8 data centres across India at the moment. Wherever our cloud infrastructure is, wherever the OSS and BSS is sitting in the cloud, it doesn't matter. Because the OSS and the BSS are the enabling technologies or systems for me to be able to provide these key characteristics. Now, there is no doubt, and this is very important for you and for us, because there is no doubt that this has huge potential. I have to admit, in my professional or in my personal view, there has been a lot of hype about this over the last 3 to 5 years. However, and I come from Australia, and therefore there'll be no comments about cricket. But over the last 3 to 5 years, when we started to hear about the cloud, there were differing views about whether this was the next big thing. Is this what SMS was to the voice mobility? When you guys might not know this, but when mobile phones first came out and SMS was introduced, everyone looked at it and said, who is going to take time punching letters and words into a mobile phone? That's what typewriters are for. Remember typewriters? No, you don't. It's okay. But there is a huge potential here. And what's important is that we have to understand what we need to do to be able to tap that potential, because in the Indian market, we have some pretty specific challenges. And I congratulate you on the Telecom Forecast release. I did have a chance to scan through it, and I went specifically to the cloud section. And you have highlighted most of the challenges that we will face in this industry, in extracting the potential out of the cloud, whatever that might be. But one of the things we have to be careful about here in this market is there are 3 things that concern customers, 3 things that concern businesses. And when I talk about customers, I'm talking about businesses. Firstly is security. It's the security of the data. We heard that individuals will generate a gigabyte of data every day. Businesses are producing petabytes of data today. The government has instituted a regulation for the banking and financial services industry which says you must have a physical disaster recovery location from which you must operate for 15 days a year, which is not your primary location. That means that all the data that is produced with your information on it, how much money you have in your bank account, how much money you're transferring between bank accounts, when you're actioning activity or conducting activity on your bank accounts, it has to be duplicated. Because someone is going to have to shut down a primary location and operate from somewhere else. But it's the security of that data which is a concern to customers, to businesses. The second thing is power. To run the cloud, you require power from the grid and our own generated power. And this is not a plug for my own business, but those of you who are from the north may recall, last year in the middle of the year, during the summer months, there was a northern grid failure here in India. It took northern India off the grid for 96 hours. We ran data centres, as well as some of our competitors, but we ran data centres in northern India, in the Delhi NCR, for 96 hours on diesel-generated power. And we were one of the first industries to get the power back after hospitals and other emergency institutions, but we had to be able to do that. So running the cloud is power hungry. And the third thing is connectivity. If you're going to entrust your data and your operations and the way you run your business to a cloud which you can't see, touch, feel, or smell, you want to know that you're going to be able to get access to it when you require it. So those three things are the forefront of business minds today. And only if we address those three things, if you address those three things, will we be able to extract maximum value from this potential. Okay. 2 final slides on the cloud. Here are some fundamentals. Cloud is an evolution of technology. It's being driven by certain things, but it is technology. But it's not the technology in and of itself which is important, because largely it's the same technology that we've been using, just in a better box. The key here is that it's an evolution of the technology that we use today. Now, on the left-hand side there are the 4 different types of clouds that people talk about. Private clouds, public clouds, community clouds, hybrid clouds. What they are is irrelevant, I'm sorry to tell you, because they're important for different industries and different people at different times. But what's important is that companies have to go through, enterprises have to go through a certain behavioural change in order to go from what we have today to what the cloud offers and the potential that the cloud offers for tomorrow. And that's important. However, this is probably the most important slide in this whole setting the foundation or setting the baseline for what cloud is. Look at the difference between, and earlier is 3 to 5 years ago, okay? So it's not that long ago. So look at the differences. When an enterprise invested in server and storage capacity, you can't buy 50% of a box. You have to buy the box. But in the early days, what CIOs do and CTOs do, clearly, is you buy for the future. You're investing crores of money now in order that you don't have to keep investing those crores of money over the next 3 years. You want at least a couple of years of use out of it. Therefore, you're going to buy a bigger box than you need today. The example that I'll give you is with Bharti. When Singtel did the business case to invest in Bharti about, I don't know how long it was ago, I'm sorry, I think it was about 10 years ago, they did a calculation. At the time, Bharti had 5 million subscribers. They forecast in the business plan that over the next 5 years, the number of subscribers would grow to how many? Take a guess. No, nowhere near it. 45 million. So 5 years, 5 million to 45 million. So IBM put the infrastructure in to take care of 45 million, a growth of 40 million over 5 years. How many months did it take for Airtel to hit 45 million subscribers? After the 5 million. How many? Just guess. Anyone? 3 years? No. Nah, not so, okay, that's good, but it wasn't quite that quick. 18 months. So the plan that was done, pick a date, 2000, planned out for 5 years, 2005, 5 to 45 million. That number was hit after 18 months, in mid-2001, for example. You can't plan for that. So the cloud enables CIOs and CTOs and CFOs to optimise utilisation to optimise the investment that they make in technology. I won't go through each of these, but there are a couple of important things. The two that are in black italics there are self-service and provisioning. At the moment, it takes weeks to provision IT infrastructure. It just does. Now, there's someone here from Voda, and he might turn around and say, no, it doesn't, Neil. So the business I run, it takes weeks. It shouldn't take weeks. It should take minutes. Amazon Web Services. You go online, you subscribe, you want a combination of IT infrastructure, you can get that in minutes, and it's up and running. And entrepreneurs and startups are using that infrastructure today to meet their requirements of doing test and dev before they go into production. It's incredible. That's what the cloud is all about. Now, the next 3 slides are pretty important. So if you haven't listened to anything else that I've said, or if you can't understand me, that's even worse. But if you haven't listened to anything else, please listen to these 3 slides. Look at these 3 slides. $14 million jobs will be created by this cloud thing between 2011 and 2015. Now, note that it doesn't say 14 million additional jobs, but 14 million jobs will be created, and there will be a significant number of them which are additional jobs. Because as the cloud takes over from single investments in infrastructure, what you will find is that the smart people working in companies or enterprises today working on IT infrastructure will migrate to cloud service providers. But the developments that will now occur in the cloud and on the cloud, thank you for looking at your watch, I just looked at mine as well. Have we hit 15 minutes yet? Okay, we're good to go? Right. So what's important here is that for you guys and gals that are sitting in this audience today, thinking about what does this mean for me, this is what it means for you. This is what cloud is going to do to our industry. It will create jobs, not take them away. Now, for those of you sitting there thinking about what you're doing, watching the consolidation that's going on in the telco market here in India, telco industry here in India today, you might be thinking, have I done the right thing? You have. Trust me. Because this is your evolution of growth. This is where you will lead us in the next 10 years. You will create the development, the marketing, the infrastructure, and the IT systems and support mechanisms to drive the next wave of growth in our industry. And I find that exciting. So well done. What's important though, for those of you in your MBA level or your postgraduate degree level education, is to please understand what it actually means when you're going and talking to businesses. And I'm sure many of you already do. But the key here is, it's things like usage-based billing. It's things like converting CapEx to OpEx. Now in India, GDP is dropping to 5%. Right, this is not a political statement. I don't get involved in politics. I learned that very early on in my career. 5% is what most of the rest of the world would grab with both hands and run with, by the way, but that's okay. That's okay, because what that means is, for this particular part of our industry, it means that we're going to have to be innovative with customers about how they use the funds that they have available. There was something on the screen in one of the AVs that came up that said we're moving from competition to co-petition. And this is what it's about. The days of vendors and customers being masters and slaves are disappearing, because we have to work together to ensure that we optimise the funds that are available for CTOs, CFOs and CIOs. It gives them infinitely scalable, available infrastructure. You don't have to invest early in order to ensure you've got capacity for later on. You let the cloud service provider do it. And finally, those license fees and those upgrades that you have to do, and then having plan B to reverse the upgrades out because something's gone wrong or there's a glitch. It's not done by the enterprise anymore in the cloud, it's done by the cloud service provider. Essentially, what it means is that they get to optimise their business by focusing on things that are their core business and reducing costs. Now, I don't want to sit down today having you think that the cloud is utopia. It's not. There are some challenges with it. There are some big challenges with it. And some of our customers tell us that they will give us certain things and put it in the cloud, but there are certain things that they won't give us. There is a very large mining company in this country. Its competitive advantage is the geographical data that it has about different locations in India and in the ocean around India, about where to generate oil or where to mine for oil. They've told me categorically, Neil, you are never getting access to that information. Why though? The question is why? And the why is because I don't yet trust you enough that someone else won't get access to that. So if you're thinking about where the next round of, or the next thing in cloud is going to come from, the next innovation in cloud, we have to be able to give enterprises confidence that their data is secure in the cloud. And that's what we have to do. That's what my team at the moment, my product team, is working towards right now. Okay? And it also reduces costs. Overall, though, the concept of the last, or the message from the last 3 slides is that both for yourselves and for enterprises, there's huge opportunity in this, if we get it right. Okay, very quickly. Now, these slides I'm going to go through very quickly, because now I'm at the 20-minute mark, right? Got it. You guys all know this better than I do. OSS does certain things, but OSS and BSS are critical to cloud service providers. Why? Because it enables us to actually do all the other stuff that we need to do. Infrastructure as a service, software as a service, platform as a service. If we don't have effective OSS and BSS, if we don't have those systems in place, we can't actually offer any of this and do all those things, or you take advantage of the potential that's there. And the BSS is the same. So, we have to be able to do billing. We have to be able to do data warehousing. This is about the service lifecycle management. That's what OSS and BSS in the cloud is all about. And now the doozy slides. Can anyone beyond the 3rd row read that? No. And that's because for those of you who with ETOM certifications, you don't need to read it because you can go and find it in a book. But essentially, where did we get this? Here is the Common Cloud Management Platform, OSS and BSS, which enables all of this to occur. Without this, we can't do the rest of it. So, the other confidence that we can give to enterprises is we have to eat our own food. So if we're going to do this, the cloud service providers, we have to have faith in the systems that we're using as well. And then finally, these are all the things that come out of it. So if we don't have effective BSS and OSS in the cloud, we can't do any of this. And remember, the key advantage here is infinite scalability, automation, rapid provisioning, converting CapEx to OpEx. It's all of those things. But without the fundamentals, don't think that you can take what you've learnt about OSS and BSS and throw it out the door. Please don't do that. And I'm hoping some of the faculty who are here will appreciate the fact that I'm saying that. It is important. You do need to know that. You do need to understand the importance of those two systems. But not only for an enterprise, but also for a cloud service provider. And then eventually, we will provide these type of technologies to enterprises in the cloud. Okay. That's the concluding slide. I'm going to leave that up there because you can read that. I'm now happy to take any questions from the floor. No one? That means I'm going to have to keep talking for the next 5 minutes. What's going on? Surely you don't want to... No one? Oh, right up the back, lady at the back. Yep. I'm relying on you to shout out. If you need a microphone, please stand up and shout out.
Hi sir, I'm Roshni from Second Year Systems. My question is not about telco as a user of cloud, but since telcos provide the connectivity to traditional cloud providers, do you think they'll move into the cloud space? As in, do you think that there'll be cloud providers in the future?
Absolutely.
So what is your take on this?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, what is your take on this? Do you think it's a space they will move into?
Yep. Yes, it is. We talked earlier on in the former presentation about commoditization of technology, or commoditization of what I euphemistically call the pipe. Telcos, I think, are best placed to use the connectivity that is available to them, and I apologise if walking back and down in front of that is annoying people, but we have an opportunity. We have the connectivity. We can determine how successful that connectivity is if we go into this part of the industry and use it as an adjunct to what we're doing today. And in fact, I know at Airtel, this is exactly what we're doing. So the next wave of innovation that's coming in Airtel beyond virtualization is we are building an internal, a private cloud onto which all of our broader-based usage applications are going. Okay, so the infrastructure is being set up. What that enables us to do is then hive off sections of that private cloud or duplicate that private cloud, turn it into public cloud and offer that in the market. Because one of the big questions that my sales guys get at the moment is, well, are you doing this? If you're trying to sell me on cloud, if you're trying to sell me on the benefits of cloud, are you doing it? The answer is we are. So the logical next step for telcos beyond what we do today, in the enterprise space at least, is to take what we're doing internally with a private cloud and offer that to the market. Does that answer the question? Yeah. Yep, down the front. You tell me when.
Hello, sir. I'm
Hello.
Sagar from First Year Systems. My question is, currently at the moment, to manage the OSS and BSS, lots of people are employed for managing that. But once we switch over to cloud, it will all become automated. So, like, how will more jobs be created if we use the cloud?
Because, it's a good question, and I was kind of expecting that. Because the technology is such that it's still not as mature as it needs to be. The technology is such that whilst you will need fewer people in fewer enterprises around organisations, you will still need people to run, manage, innovate, develop, implement, upgrade. So you still need people to do that particular job. The job itself doesn't disappear. Okay, and in the early stages of this, what is going to happen, as you saw up there, between now or between a couple of years ago and 2015, there are going to be a lot of jobs created because this is still an innovative development in our industry. You know, I'm certainly seeing more and more people talking about it with me, asking me about it, but there's no stampede coming in the door to throw everything into the cloud, regardless of where it is. So the job situation is such that there is growth now in both parts of the industry. So companies, enterprises still need to do development, they still need to do patches, they still need to do upgrades, they still need to do refreshes, but at the same time we're competing with them for talent, because we want to be able to demonstrate to those enterprises that we're just as good as they are at doing it themselves. The big thing about CIOs is If I was a CIO, the big thing is I want to know the person who's managing my infrastructure, my platforms, my systems, is someone who I know. And I want to be able to have a conversation with that guy when things don't go smoothly. And I want to know that his talent enables me to do plan B reverse outs, okay, to back out the patches or whatever. We need to build, we're not there yet. And I'm happy for any of the learned gentlemen who are here presenting today to challenge me on this, but we're not there yet. We don't yet have the level of confidence and trust from enterprises for us to do this type of stuff. There is no issue with Gmail, there is no issue with that type of thing, with some more basic or more fundamental. There is still a question around privacy and data security, but people are less worried about it for some reason. Even after Snowden, people are less worried about it. What's going to happen, you're at the right level at the right time, that over the next 3 to 5 years there will be a lift, I believe. I agree with Microsoft. I think that there will be a lift in the number of jobs out there rather than a decrease, even though we're going through consolidation. Does that answer the question? Good. You tell me. Yep. Well, I think we'll take 2 more questions. That's it. Gentleman down here. And then you,
hello, sir.
in the middle.
I'm Avinash from Divapati College of Engineering.
Good afternoon.
It has seen that a certain technology becomes irrelevant after some amount of time. So is cloud going to be irrelevant, or will it become outdated, or it will change itself to the time?
That's a great question. That is a great question. I don't know, but let me tell you something. Sorry. So, I would be the last person to stand here today and tell you that it will become irrelevant. Because think about the concept of what it is. What you're doing is you're taking away the requirement for individual enterprises or individuals themselves to innovate or to refresh technology or to upgrade technology. So a box that becomes irrelevant or has no longer support after 3 or 5 years from a particular equipment manufacturer, that doesn't change, but now the enterprise doesn't have to invest in the upgrade. The cloud service provider invests in the upgrade. Does that make sense? So it's not, I don't think it's irrelevant, the same way that I don't think SMS is going to become, SMS is not irrelevant, it's just that the same thing that SMS taught us to do, which is using a mobile voice device to send data packets, has evolved into messaging services, right? So the concept is still the same, it's just an evolution of that particular activity or technology, okay? It's gone from being paid for to being free, which is not making many of us happy, but I think the same thing, I think you'll see the same evolution in cloud as you will with any technology. Cisco would never stand here and tell you that any of their boxes have become irrelevant. What they would tell you is that they have evolved the technology over time. There is a message that I want to leave you with. I'll take one more question, please, and then I'll give it to this lady down here, if that's all right. Maybe
Very good afternoon, sir.
I'm sorry?
Sir.
Oh, ma'am, you got usurped. One more guy, one more gal. Just let him ask first, and then that's it.
Very good afternoon, sir.
You can come last. Yep.
My name is Kodeshwar from Systems and Finance, second year.
Yep.
Sir, the integration of OSS, BSS itself is a big challenge for the operators, like legacy systems integration, skills and availability, and these kind of issues. Can you believe that cloud will leverage this issue smoothly?
Do I think cloud will make the challenges any less? No. Do I think that make the challenges any more? Yes. Does that answer this young gentleman's question down here before about what's going to happen to my job? Absolutely. Because if enterprises individually, with their very, very specific requirements today, are challenged to integrate OSS and BSS, you can imagine what's going to happen when we have to go cross-industry, cross-vertical, cross-market. Now, that's why I'm saying what's happening at the moment, the discussion here at the moment, is mainly around what happens for a cloud, what BSS and OSS does for a cloud service provider. The cloud service providers have to get the OSS BSS integration right, the same as every other enterprise does, right? But if we get it right, and we know how to get it right, then we can start to offer it as a service. And what you might see is OSS BSS as a service. Because if a CIO can turn around and say, I don't want the headache, then they'll do it. I don't see that happening in the next 12 months.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. One final, yes ma'am.
My name is Joy. I'm in first year BTech at SIT. And what I really want to ask is, with more and more digitization, with the cloud computing that's coming in, what I want to know is, won't the vulnerability increase? I mean, with everything being in the same place and all the eggs are in one basket now, wouldn't it become easier for people to exploit that maybe?
Okay, great question. Righto. And this is another good question. And the reason it is because it goes to the fundamental issue of what cloud is. Cloud is not static. Cloud is not, we don't run the cloud from one location. So the cloud is run the same way as any enterprise that it has a requirement to is run from a minimum of 2 separate locations. And here in India, it's important because we separate those, the stacks, as they're called, the cloud infrastructure, we separate them both geographically and seismologically. So we have cloud infrastructure in the Delhi NCR, and we also have cloud infrastructure here in Pune, actually, at Karadi. So what happens is you spread the risk, you spread the chance of it failing by being, it is location agnostic. The cloud is location agnostic. But what that actually means is that the cloud service provider has to invest more money in cloud infrastructure to ensure that those type of issues are taken care of for customers. One final thought. Thank you very, very much. Can I grab you outside or do you... Yeah, I'll grab you outside. One thing I want to leave you with. This is an exciting time for our industry. This is an exciting time, I think, for you, people who are studying in this industry or to come into this industry. But I want to leave you with a thought. The technology is an enabler. The CIO, the CTO and the CFO are now partners in growth. The technology that we talk about, that you learn about today, enables businesses to better serve their customers. So when I talk to customers, I don't talk to them about technology. I talk to them about what their strategic drivers are. I talk to them about what their customer experience needs to be. Because, and I was only talking to someone just before about this, when you go and buy a fridge, you can buy a fridge from anywhere. Because a white good is a white good is a white good. It's a fridge. Now, some of the white good manufacturers will criticise me for saying that, but it is. What matters today and what matters more and more moving forward is not the fridge. Because as long as the fridge doesn't freeze stuff that it's not supposed to freeze, and it freezes stuff that it is supposed to freeze, what will matter is when it doesn't do either of those things and you need to phone someone to get assistance. So the thought that I leave you with is that the technology that we learn about today and the systems that we learn about today are enablers. And they are enablers to ensure that both our customers and those customers of them are able and are enabled, and we meet their customer experience requirements. So as you go through your studies, please keep the fact that it's the customer who's the king at the centre of everything. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for sharing with us your experiences and insights. I now invite my colleague to felicitate sir with a memento as a token of our gratitude. Thank you, sir. I would now request you to kindly take your seat amongst the audience.